Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about the night tiles in ITO 438. We made a huge work on making those tiles as realistic as possible. So one thing I really like in ITO 438 is the fact that the terrain is now a satellite image of the area. This makes flying VFR a very realistic option in 438. But one thing that bothered me is the fact that the night tides were very unrealistic, and we're going to see exactly why. So, for instance, if we take this desert area, this is the Sinai desert, this is Eilat, the city of Eilat in the south of Israel. And if we run the regular script that is used for the night tiles, we can see that it takes all the highlighted area, the bright areas of the desert, and it converts them into lighting, which the results that we get is, I don't know how to call it. It's somewhat psychedelic, but it's way off from reality. This desert's supposed to be black and dark at night, only the cityscape supposed to be lit, and what the result that we get here is very unrealistic. And of course, when stretching across the entire desert, it seems very weird and very unrealistic. So what I did here is a bit different. Uh, I took, I made my own actions. They are very similar to the ones that we saw here, and we're going to see the method of how we are going to color the cityscapes and the roads, and to make everything more realistic at night. Okay, so in my method, it's very rigorous and it's time consuming, so be prepared to work on it. It took me almost 2 weeks to cover the entire area of ITO, and it's mostly desert. We're going to see why, but the populated area takes some time to work on. So just a heads up and be prepared. What we're going to do, we are going to mask all the areas where there are cities, houses, factories, every places that's supposed to be lit, highways, for example, junctions, roads, and everything. We are going to mask them, and then we are going to perform the filter that you saw earlier, a very similar method to the one that we saw earlier, but the main change is that we are going to mask only the populated area, only the lit areas, and we are going to run the filter only for them. This means that other areas, so for example, the desert where there are no light sources, are going to remain dark. So let's dive right in and I'll show you my method. Of course, feel free to suggest any other method of your own, but from my experience, this is something that works. So I'm going to take the mask tool, and of course I have the tile opened in Photoshop. I'm using Photoshop. You can do it with any other photo editing software. So I'm going to take my mask tool and I'm going to cover the contour of the city. I've been working uh, in small steps. I'm selecting areas by areas of the city. You can use different mask tools. For example, you can take the straight line tool, which is a bit easier to work with. And of course, this is not accurate science, so you can just take the general lines of the city because the filter itself is going to ignore most of the areas that are not supposed to lit, most of the areas that are dark in the picture. You're going to see that when we run the filter. So I'm covering the city of Eilat, and what I did here is to select the entire city. Now, because we are working with a lot of masks and we need to cover, this style is pretty simple because there are not many populated areas. But again, if we are working on a tile where we need to deal with a lot of masks, what I did is to create another layer and just to paint what I selected in black, just to make sure that I cover that area and I don't need to cover it again, it just helps me to remember. So now we see that we need to cover, for example, the road. Uh, my method for the road, I took just a regular brush with full hardness, and 3 pixels is just a regular road, and 4 pixels, for example, is the highway. 4 or maybe 5 pixels is for the highway, and I'm going to mask the roads. Of course, we have lit roads here in Israel. Okay, so this is the method of masking everything. Oh, I had the opacity at 50, so we need the opacity in 100. For this, we just need to cover everything in order to create a selection mask, which I'm going to show later. Okay, so I'm just working my way, covering everything that I think should be lit. So everything that I'm painting in black is going to be lit later on. And as you can see, there's no need to be super accurate. The effect that we are going to apply later will do the rest. We just need to guide it through the areas that are populated and make sure that the desert remains a desert. So right now we finished with the city of Elat. I'm not going to cover all the areas right now. It's just an example. But for instance, there are some installations here, some infrastructures. So maybe we want to give them uh, a bit of lighting, so we can do it with the paintbrush. I don't know exactly what's in here. It looks like some fuel depot. So maybe there's a surrounding fence that is lit. Okay, so give your artistic taste some freedom. Over here, this road, I know this road and it's very dark at night, so there's no need to cover it. This is just me being familiar with this road, and of course, if it's a place that I don't know exactly if it's lit or not, it's just for my discretion. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to take the mask. We are going to create a mask from the layer that we used for us as a helper. We don't need this layer anymore, so I'm going to hide it. We need to select the layer that is used for the for the background, because the effect is going to take this background and convert it into a CD light. So if you can see here, there is a mask covering the entire area that I'm going to apply the filter to. And I created an action that is called CD lights. We are going to run it once, and you can see it created a layer of CD lights. This is the top layer. Okay, now we are going to take the background again, and I'm going to run the outland. Okay, it's called outland because it is the outland. We are going to run this action, and now you can see that the desert becomes dark. Everything that we didn't mask becomes dark, so only the city is lit. But our job is not done here. We have one layer which controls the intensity of the light, and the other layer which provides the background. So without the background, this is actually how the light layer looks like. So we are going to select the background, and there is another action for CD light backgrounds. It applies a bit of contrast, and voila, you can see that now we have some contrast on the city, and we have the layer providing the background, which is the darker areas of the city, and we have the layer providing the foreground, which gives the intensity of the lights and gives it a little bit of hue. And this is the artistic taste of it. Now, in some places, I used another action, which is the light reduction. In some places, the lights in the simulator looked a bit too intense, so I used the light reduction. Okay, it's hard to see here in Photoshop, but it does create some reduction in the intensity of the lights. And this is something that we can use. Just try for yourself and see how it goes and what are the results. Now, when we save this tile, of course, as DDS, according to how we save tiles in Falcon. And once the simulator reads the data from the tile, everything that is highlighted becomes a lighting in the simulator. So if we look at the results, we are flying over the same area that we worked on, same tile, and if we look over to the west, we can see that the desert, although it's there, is very dark. Only populated areas are lit. Using NVG to see the desert itself. Otherwise, it's black and dark as it should be. And if we look over to the city of Eilat and the entire populated area, the city of Aqaba in Jordan, where we worked earlier, we can see that the cityscape is lit and all the populated areas are lit. And of course, the desert and the ocean are black. And this is quite realistic picture as we would see if we would be flying in this area in real life. And for me, it's a very beautiful result. This is how I would like to see Falcon when flying at night. Only populated areas, roads, places where there are light fixtures supposed to be lit and others supposed to be dark. Another thing that I did is to paint all the highways and small roads to make sure that they are lit. So highways, I used 5 pixels for the brush, and main roads I used 4 pixels, and small rural roads I used 3 pixels and even 2. What it gives is this effect that we have. You can see we have all sorts of types of roads. We have major highways, okay, freeways and everything, and we have some small town roads, so they need to have different intensity of lighting. I want to talk about additional effects that I used. So, for example, if we have a large city, a large metropolitan area, like for instance, this is Tel Aviv, I added some life to it by adding another layer of color. Okay, you can see here there's another layer coloring the lights in all different ways. So I gave this area, for example, a little bit of reds over here as well. There are some areas where there are greens and blues. Uh, so what I did is just to add another layer in a color dodge. I just took a picture with bokeh effect on it, and I just gave it a transparency, a lot of blur, so to make it a little bit random with the colors, and I just used color dodge in order to add it to the already existing background, and it gives a very nice effect in the simulator. It gives a little bit of color, a little bit of life to the city. I used it for only for large cities like Cairo, Damascus, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and not all the other small towns. And again, it gives just a little bit of touch of reality to everything. Okay, another effect that I did is to take into consideration the international borders and the different methods and styles of lighting in different countries. So, for instance, this area has some, this is the east of Israel, so it has some Jewish settlements and it has some areas under the control of the PA, the Palestinian Authority. And I know that the lights under the PA are a little bit more orange, so I gave them the Arab settlements a little bit of more orange-like lighting, and this gives the differentiation. Right now we can't see it because we are looking only on one tile, but when you fly over it, you can actually see the border between mainland Israel and the areas under control of the PA. So this is one example, and this is already Jordan. I also gave it a little bit more whitish hue for the lighting. and it all goes down to being familiar with how what is the lighting policy of each authority. One thing that I find hard is to really go over the small details. So, for example, we saw earlier when we worked on a city, it's much easier than working in this mountainous terrain, and these are villages. These are really rural areas with small settlements. So I just found some tricks to do that. For instance, I made a brush. It looks like a village satellite imagery. Okay, you can see the lines on the brush, and I gave it some randomness. So right now, of course, this is not going to make it, but just to show that you can create some randomness effect, and of course, the result is going to be pretty close to reality. Okay, so I can work just by adjusting the size and shape, and of course, I can add some a little bit of random touches. You can use other Photoshop brushes as well. I found a few brushes that you can work with that has some randomness. Of course, right now, not this one that I'm showing, but you can use you can create your own brushes, and it will help with creating this randomness effect of small settlements and small villages. We can see here the result is that in places where there are small villages, the lights are not too intense. They are a bit weaker than if it was a large city, and of course the roads are not well lit between the small villages, exactly as if in real life. This is Damascus, so we can see no, when we zoom out, we can see that there is some effect of colors to the city, and this is from the layer that I showed earlier, which in color dodge gives a nice effect, and it's even prettier in the simulator. Finally, in any place where there is an airbase, an active airbase in the simulator, in order to make the effect a little bit less intense, I covered the areas where there are runways and taxiways and also the parking areas, because otherwise, when you taxi on the ground, you can see that the ground is lit because there are no actual light fixtures or structures that emitting light in on the ground. This is just the terrain giving the false effect of lighting. So if you are going to taxi, this is Ramat David in Israel. So if you are going to taxi here and everything is lit, it looks weird in the simulator. It looks like the ground is emitting light, and of course this is very unrealistic. I know that the night in Falcon is something that needs to be worked on. Uh, so I didn't want to create an effect that gives a very bad, unrealistic feeling to the things. So what I did here is just to cover the entire area of the airbase and to make sure that it's not lit, only the residential area of the airbase, but not a place where you're going to spawn in your aircraft or going to taxi over. And I did this for all the active air bases that are in ITO, anywhere you can launch a mission from. So this is the method I used. It's a very time consuming. It takes a lot of time to mask everything and to make sure that you covered all the populated areas. It takes a lot of manual labor. And of course, I'm pretty sure there are some ways to automate it. I'm not an expert on it, but for instance, if someone has access to OpenStreetMaps or to anywhere, or any GIS that can give you the rural areas and the populated areas in some sort of a vector data, for example, this will help to create a much more accurate masking. And this is just an idea that I had, but I really don't know my way around the OpenStreetMaps or GIS data. Pretty sure the data is out there if anyone can pick up the glove. and incorporate this data into Photoshop, it will help to create much more realistic and much more accurate lighting maps and lighting tiles. And of course, if anyone is familiar with some AI automation or any way to make it work automatically, that would be great. Again, as I mentioned, it took me almost 2 weeks to work on the entire ITO, and I'm guessing working on Korea because there are much more populated areas and many more villages. It might take even longer, although North Korea, as we know, is very dark, but South Korea again is way more populated than the Middle East. Here in the Middle East, we have a lot of desert, a lot of tiles where there was nothing to light up because it's just plain old deserted areas of just desert and sand. And this is not the case for Korea. So if anyone is going to pick up this glove for Korea, I really recommend to find a way to automate the masking process or to find some outside the data source that we can use for masking.